What's going on, guys? UFC 303 is coming up this weekend. Pereira versus Prochazka. Absolute banger. Was supposed to be the return of Conor McGregor, but man, I don't know if this man's ever going to return, and I feel really bad for Chandler, but it is what it is. I guess they're professional athletes and they know what to do. But we got Pereira versus Prochazka put together short notice, and we got Diego Lopes versus Brian Ortega put together short notice. So we can't really complain too much because it's definitely a good pay-per-view besides Chiasson versus Bueno Silva, but we'll get to that fight later on. Last week we killed predictions, 8 out of 11, and we also destroyed our bets, which was perfect. You can check that out in my recap video for UFC Saudi Arabia that I just posted yesterday. But yeah, I think that will wrap up the pre-talk, and I think we should just go straight into the predictions and breakdowns. Starting off with our first fight of the night, which is Ricky Simon versus Vinicius Oliveira, and that's pretty crazy if this is the first fight of the night because it's a really good fight. Two kind of polar opposite fighters. Ricky Simon is known for the wrestling, whereas Vinicius Oliveira is the all-round striker, and he's a dangerous one at that. Ricky Simon, like I say, is a wrestler, and he brings that wrestling with some serious cardio and pressure. He likes to push his opponents back against the cage and take them down at will, and he uses his short, stocky frame to throw these bombs that he's just been hitting his opponents with and dropping them. Like against Jack Shaw, that's how he got the finish against Shaw. He used the striking to hurt him and finish him off on the floor. Some real good grapplers as well, like Rafael Sansao, just dominated him in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, and you know, took fighters down like Yadong Song, who people struggled to take down, and he even had success against Mario Batista. Even though Batista kind of beat him up that whole fight, he still had his own success and hurt Batista at a stage and got some nice takedowns. And there was one where he took his where he grabbed Batista and like had him over his shoulder and took him all the way down to his corner, which was pretty cool. But he does have some flaws as well. His chin is a bit, I don't know if it's weak, I think he's hittable. So Yadong hurt him and finished him. Uriah Faber back in the day. And of course Mario Batista just recently kind of touched him up on the feet, which is scary when you're coming against someone like Oliveira, who is just a dynamic striker, and you could see that in his insane KO, the flying knee KO of a Sapai in his last fight. If you want to watch an absolute crazy fight, watch the Talib fight that's on Oliveira's regional tape. That was one of the most fun fights I've ever seen in my life, and it was a back and forth scrap. But what I did notice in that fight is he can be taken down. He got taken down by Taleb, and he also got taken down in the Sapai fight in his most recent one, which was really concerning because he nearly got finished because he just seemed like a fish out of water on his back. He got mounted and he didn't know what to do. And if Sapai had a bit more cardio and a bit more impact on those ground and pound shots, he probably would have gotten finished in the second round. Like I said, I do like his striking, but it is also wild. So it's not a very technical striker. It's more so just he has a lot of power and he throws from some weird angles, and he catches his opponents because they're not aware of it. Now for a pick, I think I have to pick Ricky Simon here at a medium confidence too, because I just think if Sapai is able to take you down on extremely short notice and kind of nearly finish you, I think Simon will have a field day with you on the ground and getting you to the ground. Yes, I think it's a risk for Simon on the feet, because I do think Oliveira can KO Simon, but all in all, you got to pick the way you think the fight's going to go, and I think the fight's going to go to the ground. I don't think Oliveira is going to finish Simon before Simon gets him to the ground. So yeah, I do think Simon actually finds a finish on the ground as well, either by a sub or by ground and pound. But I think fight doesn't go decision is a good way to play this fight, because it's just very volatile. Oliveira could find the knockout on the feet, or he could get finished on the ground by Simon. So yeah, fight doesn't go decision, or Ricky Simon at a medium confidence pick for this one. Next up, we have the undefeated prospect Ray Tsuruya versus Carlos Hernandez. And guys, people are so confident in Tsuruya here, and I just don't see it. I mean, yes, I'm going to pick him to win this fight, and I am going to pick him at a medium confidence. But to be throwing a egregious amount of money at him and to be piling him up at minus 400, I just think it's a bit crazy. I don't think he should be in any safety parlay or anything like that. And we'll get to his skill set. So he's just a wrestler, and he's a damn good wrestler as well. And his jiu-jitsu complements it quite well as well. He sets up some twisters, some scarf holds, and I don't know what he was going for. He was like trying to rip off the neck of his last opponent, Nia Shuya. Sorry about the pronunciation, but you know what I mean. He was trying to like, it was just manipulating the body so strangely, and I've never seen a fighter do that in the grappling department. And he does have good cardio as well. You saw in the Climaco fight, he went through a war in the wrestling, and he was still the one fighting at the end, going for those takedowns and trying to get the control. However, that's all he has. He only has wrestling and grappling. He is not a well-rounded fighter, and he has no striking. He's not like Tatsuro Tara. He does not have anywhere near the striking of Tatsuro. And I also noticed he's quite tiny. Like, he might be the taller fighter of the two here, but his stature is extremely small. Now, Hernandez is just a pure boxer, so kind of the opposite. One's a wrestler, one's a boxer. And you saw how good his boxing is against the Denise Bondar fight, but how good is Denise Bondar? We just saw him get finished as well. So you can't, I don't know how much you can hold it to that value. Also in the Altamirano fight, he had a good scrap with him, but he has no ground game, which is going to be scary in this fight. And you saw that in the Tara fight, the Nascimento fight, the Daniel Barros fight on the Dana White Contender Series. All those fighters took Hernandez down quite easily and was able to manipulate him quite easily as well and get the finishes, besides Daniel Barros. And I also noticed on those takedowns and in those grappling exchanges, he gives up his back, which is Tsuruya's specialty. So it's going to be a bit scary for Hernandez if he gets taken down, because I do think Tsuruya is either going to find a dominant position or he's going to be able to sub him quite easily. Now, it just comes down to how easily Hernandez can get taken down. Like, a breath of wind can knock this man down. I do think it's a close fight because of the striking between the two, because I do think Tsuruya's has literally zero striking. But once it gets to the ground, I think Tsuruya is going to have a field day of Hernandez, and I do think at least in each round he'll be able to get a takedown and do whatever he wants to Hernandez. But all in saying that, I don't even think he'll get to the third round. I think Tsuruya is going to find a submission here, and I think he's going to find it in the very first round. So give me Ray Tsuruya by first round submission. Next up, we have Andrei Arlovski versus Martin Buday. And look, guys, I have a real vendetta against heavyweights, and it's just, I don't know what it is, but I just hate seeing low-level heavyweight fights. It's just horrible. I find it worse than low-level women's fights, because it's just, these guys just have a choice. They can be fit, they can be a part of it. Not really Arlovski, but I still think in his case he should have retired 5-6 years ago. I've never been interested in an Arlovski fight because his fights are so boring, and this man's getting paid like $500,000 a fight. Crazy. Then Martin Buday, he's 30 years old in a professional sport. Yeah. So 32, he's not that much older than me, only 7 years older than me. And he's that unathletic. And it's like he doesn't care about his career. It's just crazy to me that these fighters get a chance to do this. It's just insane. And okay, we'll start with the breakdown. enough of the rant. Buday, what's he good at? Clinch. Being heavy. Just weighing on his opponents, I think. That's actually it. And then when he gets the fight to the floor, if it gets to the floor, he's just too lazy to do it. He actually has some good jiu-jitsu. You saw him lock up that Ghemmouri against Parisian, and he has a nice arsenal on the ground, I would say. I wouldn't compliment too much, but yeah, I think that's it. Clinch and jiu-jitsu when needed. For Arlovski, I can say he picks his shots well. You know, even recently, he picks his shots better than most heavyweights. Like in who was it? Salsa Boy, Waldo, Ortega Costa. He picked his shots well in that fight, and it was quite a close fight, to be honest. But what I have noticed with him is, maybe it's just his age, I don't know, but he kind of just gives up. He kind of just falls flat in his face and just goes on a ball or either gets submitted. You saw that in the Dontal Mays fight, kind of just gave up there. The DeLima fight, Aspinall fight was like the pinnacle of giving up. He just like let that chokes sink in, and he was like, nah, I'll take the 500,000 and I'll be done. So yeah, I don't really think you can trust either one of these fighters, but you kind of have to pick Buday here simply for the fact that Arlovski is 45 years old. Like, I think that's the oldest fighter ever to fight in the UFC, and Buday can probably just weigh his large his large body on Arlovski. I'll be kind here. His large body on Arlovski and just tire him out. And do I think he gets a finish? No. I'll say sub or decision. Okay. So I'm gonna pick Buday. I'm gonna pick him by submission or decision win. Up next, we have the return of Michelle Waterson Gomez versus Gillian Robertson. Woo! What a fun fight! I can't wait. No one ever says that. No one ever says that about Michelle Waterson fights. I'm sorry, okay? What is this, a retirement card? Why is there so many old fighters nearing the age of 40 on this card? We've even got Cub Swanson at the end of the card fighting, and he's like 40 as well. I mean, geez. It's time for these fighters to retire. I think this is most of the fighters' last fight that are like peaking at that age. And hopefully, because I feel bad for Waterson after that last fight against Rodriguez. That was a sad loss. But we'll start off with her. So what is she good at? She's known as the karate hottie, and I guess you can say she's got some good karate. Not really. She's not really powerful. She kind of hits air. She kind of likes to grunt and hit the air. But she's consistent. She finds a target here and there. But I think her best skill set really is her wrestling, and she's used it in her past fights quite a lot. I think as she's gotten older and she's gotten a lot less athletic, I don't know, she's relied on her wrestling. Marina Rodriguez, the Lemos fight, the Hill fight, all required her to wrestle, and she did well in the wrestling. She controlled her opponents. But if you noticed, Marina, Lemos, Hill, they aren't jiu-jitsu practitioners, whereas Robertson is. So that might play into what I pick later on. The cons about her, she's 38, like I said. I mean, you get unathletic after the age of 35. You see it all the time in the UFC, and it's just a matter of time before the joints and the bones stop working as much as you want it to be. And I also mentioned she took a life-changing beating against Marina Rodriguez. She got like knocked out like 2-3 times because of the clinch and knees, and she was just bloodied up. It was actually really sad to see because the ref should have stopped it in the first round, but he let her survive, and then yeah, she got beat up again in the second round and they had to stop it. I also think a real negative here is, like I mentioned, I think her best skill set recently is her wrestling, and I don't think she's going to be able to use it against Robertson because Robertson is a grappler and a really good grappler at that. I think she's got the most submissions in the women's, whatever division this is, flyweight I think it is, division. So yeah, Robertson is going to be the better grappler of the two, and that will limit Waterson's ability to use all her moves and her skills. I also think Robertson's kind of turned a corner. She's 29 years old, so she's entering her prime, and you can kind of see it in her last couple of fights. She's definitely improved her striking. You saw it against in the Viana fight and the Tabitha Ricci fight, and most importantly, she's accommodated her jiu-jitsu skills by improving her wrestling. You saw in the Viana fight, the Ricci fight, and even the Pierre Rodriguez fight that she can take down her opponents, and she doesn't just Mackenzie Dern where she kind of just falls to her back. She actually shoots in and takes her opponents down with some decent skill set and knowledge of the skill. I will say she's not that good on the feet still, but I think it matches up fairly well in this fight because I just think Waterson's regressed so much on the feet. She's just not scary on the feet at all, besides like her sidekick that sometimes disbalances her opponents. I mean, 2-3 years ago, I would have picked Waterson all day, every day. I just think Robertson now has definitely improved and Waterson's definitely regressed. It's going to be a medium confidence pick, and I just think Robertson's going to be able to take Waterson down at some stage in the fight, and I think she's going to find a submission or ground and pound KO. It's that simple. I don't think, even if it stands on the feet, I think Robertson can be somewhat competitive with Waterson, and she'll win the bigger moments by taking her down and doing more damage on the floor. So yeah, I think Robertson wins this at a medium confidence pick, and I'm going to pick her by a KO or submission in the first or second round. Okay, up next we got Payton Talbott versus Yanis Ghemmouri, and why are they making this fight? Why is this even happening? I mean, Payton Talbott just went off beating and dominating Cameron Simon to fighting against Yanis Ghemmouri. Like, what's the point? I understand this was supposed to be a McGregor card, and on McGregor card you're supposed to try and put on some decent talent to promote them heavily because a lot of eyes will be watching. But still, man, I think this is a lopsided fight. I mean, Talbot can counter. He has perfect striking. He has some serious force with it as well. You saw it in the Simon fight. He just put him away after, like, he was just hurting him with every single counter that he was doing. And one weakness of Talbot that he had previously was the wrestling, but you can see it's definitely improved, even in the Simon fight and before that as well. I forgot what the fighter was called before that, but he dealt with a real wrestler, and he overcame it, and he finished him in like the third round. So he does know how to wrestle or defend the wrestling, and I just don't think Yanis Ghemmouri has much skill to match here. Like, he looked okay against really low level competition on Brave, but he made Gomes look untouchable in his last fight, and yeah, that shouldn't have been a KO. That was a nut shot that the referee just completely ignored. But he just looked out of touch, and I just don't think he's going to be able to know what to do in this fight. I think his only best shot is going to clinch Talbott, because he probably will be the bigger man. But besides that, I just think he's going to get touched up on the feet. I think Talbott's going to have his way with him, and I just think, like I said, this is a step down in competition. I don't know why the UFC made this fight. And yeah, Talbott's just going to have his way. I'm going to keep it short and simple, because you don't really need a large breakdown for like a minus 1600 favorite. I mean, there's just no point to it. So yeah, Talbott by KO, probably in the first or second round. Next up for UFC 303, we have a real fun fight in Charles Jourdain versus John Silva, or Gene Silva, however you pronounce it. But this should be an absolute scrap, a banger. And I guess we'll start off with Jourdain. So he's a striker, and he's a dynamic striker at that. But I feel like he's kind of had an up and down UFC career. He kind of went on like a little bit of a run, and then he just got stopped in his last fight. I mean, he's just very inconsistent, and you can tell that by his record. But he does have a lot of skills that he can really work on, because he's still 28 years old. So he has the striking, and you saw in like the Wood fight, the Nathaniel Wood and Woodson fight, he has a lot of pressure, and especially in the third round, he always ramps up in the third round. And I feel like he takes a bit of time to get his groove and get his flow. Or sometimes he might just be like, screw it, I'm just going to go for it because I'm losing this fight, and I have to turn it up and win. He's also shown like a nice, I don't know if it's jiu-jitsu, because we've seen him dominate in the wrestling, but a nice ghillie. He has a nice guillotine, and you saw that in the Ramos fight and the Lando Venata fight, where poor Lando lost all his pants because he was trying to get out of that fight, that tight squeeze. Sorry, but yeah, he's a dynamic striker, and he's good. He definitely is a good striker, but he's very hittable. And I've noticed that in the Nathaniel Wood fight. I noticed that in the Woodson fight. Julian Erosa hurt him. I mean, he does leave himself open, because I just feel like he's focused too much on his attack rather than making sure that he doesn't get hit in the counters. He also has really bad leg kick defense. You saw that in the Wood fight. He was just chopping up his legs badly, and his takedown defense is quite horrible as well. Wood was just tripping him with whatever he wanted to do, and he was just Jourdain had no answer to it and couldn't figure out the whole fight. Now Silva, I think Silva is a bit of an underrated fighter, and I think that because of his antics. I think people just think he's just the guy that barks and the guy that knocked out Chinny Weston Wilson. But if you really watch his tape and you really watch his skill sets in his past couple of fights, he is a very, very, very good boxer and dynamic striker. I mean, the accuracy and combinations he put together in the Vallejos fight on the Contender Series and the Wilson fight even were seriously impressive. He has some accuracy, and he brings it with a lot of power. His shots would drop a lot of people, and I don't know how Vallejos ate those right hands and left hooks by Silva. He likes to skate around the ring and basically pick his shots, which means that in some moments he does have like a lull in moments and effort, so his opponents can sort of like win moments on the feet. But I do think he wins the bigger moments, because he does have that power, and he does have that accuracy where he can stun his opponents and make those big impactful strikes. Now, his level of competition is nowhere near Charles Jourdain, but I do think he can be competitive with him, and I actually am going to pick him to finish Charles Jourdain. It's a very low confidence pick, but I just think Charles Jourdain has been vulnerable before, has been hit, has been hurt, and I don't think he's fought a striker like Gene Silva in terms of the accuracy and in terms of the power combined together. Yeah, Sean Woodson pieced him apart on the feet, but Sean Woodson's not really a KO artist unless he hurts someone with his knees. Whereas someone like Silva will land that straight right, will land that hook, and will hurt him. He also comes out of the Fighting Nerds camp, which is a soaring, like the KO Barriault camp. They're a soaring camp at the moment, and they have a very good team, and they are fighting nerds. They openly say they study tape, and they try and study their opponents and come up with a game plan that will win them the fight. So I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to come out with the best game plan. If that means wrestling and jiu-jitsu, then they might do that as well. And I think they could do that, because we saw in the Wood fight that Charles Jourdain can be taken down. And he goes for those ghillie attempts to kind of stop himself from getting taken down instead of defending the takedown itself. So yeah, I'm going to pick Silva. I'm going to pick him by KO sub. It's a bit of a flyer, but it's low confidence. So don't come back and be like, oh, you said Silva. Yeah, I said Silva, but I said low confidence, okay? Chill. So yeah, I'll pick KO / sub for Silva. Cub Swanson returns against Andre Fili, which should be his retirement fight. It should be Cub Swanson's final fight for the UFC. I think that's what they do when they have these big pay-per-views. They They like to put on these legends that have been around in the sport and can finish off with a high viewership card, and that's what it should have been with the McGregor. But I guess Jiri and Pereira will have to make the sales, but I'm sure they will. That's a banger of a fight. But anyway, Cub Swanson, he is 40 years old, but he doesn't really fight like a 40-year-old. So what I mean by that is, yes, I think if you have a very technical fight, the two fighters are fighting from a distance and they're just picking their shots, he gets beat 9 times out of 10. And you saw that in the Hakeem Dawodu fight, which he lost. Please don't defend Swanson in that fight. He clearly lost that fight 29-28. Anyway, yeah, he gets picked apart if it's a technical fight. But if he gets into a scrap, which he's decided to do in the final round of the Dawodu fight, then he can actually have some real good moments. And he showed that he still has a chin. He still can find shots and pick shots, and he can still hurt his opponents. What I don't like about him is that he is 40 years old. That's a given, and he can't stop a leg kick. You saw the Martinez fight. Jonathan Martinez leg kicks everyone. Okay, what do you mean, Daniel? Like, what are you saying? Yes, I know. Hakeem Dawodu was also chewing up the leg of Swanson if you watch that fight. And then the durability, the Giga Chikadze just ruined this man by hitting him to the body. So you do know he does have some deficiencies in terms of his durability. Now, Fili also has that. Fili has been chinned a few times. Nathaniel Wood chinned him like twice. Dan Ige put him out cold. Brito put him out cold. They are hard hitters, those people, besides maybe Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood's more of a speed and accuracy person, but you know what I mean. But yeah, he gets hurt as well, so you really can't trust him in his durability either. I feel like the durability of the two are basically the same, even though Swanson is 7 years the older. What I do like from Fili is that he is good everywhere. He showed off some real nice wrestling in the Bill Algeo fight, and he showed us some beautiful striking in the Almeida fight. But what I don't like about him is that he's the most inconsistent fighter ever. He has all the skills, and the commentators say it all the time, and it's true. He has all the skills, but sometimes he can come out looking like the Almeida fight, confident, striking with him. And we just saw how good Almeida looked in his last fight. Or he can come out looking scared like a little mouse against Dan Ige. He looked horrible in that fight, and he looked like he was scared to engage. So you don't know what you're going to get with Fili. Now, to pick someone in this fight, I'm going to go with Fili. And I'm going to go with Fili because I think he can implement the leg kicks, which is probably clear if they're watching tape. He comes from a good camp in Team Alpha Male. And I think he can also have success in maybe the wrestling, and just if he stays on the outside and just pop shots Swanson. Do I think he's going to get a KO? Yes, I do think he's going to finish Swanson. There's no happy endings in MMA unless you're Robbie Lawler. And I just feel like Fili is going to find the target here. I don't know if it's going to be like a ground and pound. I don't know if it's going to be on the feet. I do think Fili finishes this by KO one way or the other. Maybe by sub, I don't know, but more likely KO. It's a very low confidence pick, okay? Because I just think both of these guys are just very volatile in their durability, especially Fili. But you did see clearly in the Dawodu fight, if Swanson's fighting a clean fight, he will get outmatched by nearly everyone because he is slow on the outside and he just can't time the punches and counters fast enough. He needs a scrap to have success. And if it gets a scrap, then so be it. Swanson will probably win this fight. He'll probably chin Fili, to be honest. But I think Fili, like I said, comes from a smart camp. Probably knows what to do. He's 33, so he's still got a few decent years in the UFC left. If he wants to make a run or wants to make it at the top of the division, he has to do it now, and he has to get a win over Swanson. So I'm going to pick Fili by KO in round 2. Joey Pyfer makes his return after his main event defeat to Jack Hermanson against Marc-Andre Barriault. And should be a fun scrap. But this is my most confident pick of the card. I think Pyfer wins this all day, every day. Now, I was one of the few people that backed Hermanson to beat Pyfer in that fight. Yes, it was a low confidence pick, but I still said Hermanson would win that off several different things. I said, firstly, the leg kicks. I noted in Pyfer's last fight against, I think it was Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, he takes leg kicks and his calf was really hurt even in that fight. And Hermanson's one of his best traits is the calf kick. I also noted that he gets tired like late into the second round, like starting the third round. And because it was a 5-round fight, he had to put up a serious pace for 5 rounds if he wanted to beat Hermanson. I just didn't think he could do it. And I was correct on that one. And that was a big underdog, so I was pretty proud of that one. But I think he wins this one very, very easily and very clearly. Now, he's got quick powerful punches. We saw that in the Hermanson fight in like the first 2 rounds, and against his other opponents like like the almighty Alan Amadowski and Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. We also know that he has some seriously good wrestling and some underrated jiu-jitsu. You saw that in the Al-Hassan fight, and he openly talks about, and you can see him do BJJ tournaments, which he always competes in, which is good because he's testing out his skills outside of the cage without getting hit in the face. He can test his jiu-jitsu. What he lacks, and I think it was clear in the Hermanson fight, is he can't go 5 rounds just yet because he hasn't learned how to balance out his skill set to not blow himself out after 2 or 3 rounds. However, this is a 3-round fight, so I think that concern kind of gets, pushed away. Now, for Barriault, he is known as a grinder, okay, and he's done it his whole career, and he's done well at doing so, okay. He grinds his opponent, he breaks them, and he relies on breaking them to finish him in the 3rd round, because most of the time he loses the 1st round because his opponent is probably the more skilled fighter out of the 2, but he just kind of outpaces them and outgrits them. However, please look at the Marquez fight. In the 1st round, when Marquez is fresh and throwing at Barriault, he looks scared of the strikes. He's getting hurt by these strikes from Marquez, and I think Pyfer hits way harder than Marquez and way more accurate and way more faster as well. Marquez was throwing these overhands that most people could read, but Barriault was just scared of them. And watch the Chris Curtis fight. Yeah, he went the distance with Chris Curtis, but watch that fight, please. Barriault is a grinder, okay, like I said. But the reason he didn't go for his all-out grinding style is because he was scared of Chris Curtis's strikes. That's why he did the outskirt game of just kicking and teeping, and that's what lost him the fight. I'm telling you, he's not durable, and he's scared of these strikes coming from his opponents. Pyfer is going to knock him out or submit him in the 1st or 2nd round. He also can get heavily out-wrestled. You saw in the Fluffy Hernandez fight. Yes, Fluffy Hernandez is a gun wrestler and just has insane cardio, even better cardio than Barriault. But still, he got taken down at will. Pyfer can take this man down. I'm telling you, Pyfer's going to win this by finish, and it's my most confident pick of the card, probably my lock of the card. I love Barriault. I love him against fighters who I know he can break, but I don't think he's going to break Pyfer. Pyfer stood there for 5 rounds after gassing out after like 2 or 3 against Hermanson, so I don't think he's going to come away or be shy in this fight. I think he's going to find the finish, and he's going to finish Barriault in the 1st or 2nd round. Now, we got Ian Garry versus Michael Page. Sorry. I just, the Irish accent is interesting. It's funny. Do you think Ian Garry is upset that Conor McGregor is not there? His idol? I don't know. I think he would be devastated, to be honest. But so am I, so who cares? But yeah, should be a real fun scrap. I know a lot of people are saying this fight's going to be boring. It's going to be just them two dancing around the outside. I really don't think it's going to be like that. I think something's going to happen in this fight, and I'll tell you why in a second. But we'll start off the Ian Garry side. So what's he good at? He's good at his kicks. I think his kicks are his best asset. You saw the leg kicks against Magny and even Song. He just chews up that leg, and he is good with it because he makes sure he doesn't get counted in the process. He likes to pick his shots. You saw that in the Magny fight as well. And throughout the fight, like I said, he's more of a kicker. He's predominantly a kicker. But throughout the fight, he also produces these beautiful, beautiful boxing combinations, like against Gabe Green and, of course, against the knockout against Song. That combination, he ripped the body, then he went up to the head and just folded him like a lawn chair. And he's a good striker, and people, I think, just get in the way, like think he's annoying because of his antics and all that, which is fair enough. But you got to respect him as a fighter, and he's a very, very good striker. He also has some real good grappling, and you've seen it in his more so in his regional fights. But he's a very good grappler, and you saw against Neil Magny, I think it was, in the third round, he latched up a sub straight away. It was like the last 10 seconds, but he could have finished Magny any time in that fight, and he could have finished him on the ground for submission. So I do think he has submissions as well. Now, for his cons, I've noticed one thing, and this is why I say it's going to be an interesting fight. He likes to lean back of his head when he exits exchanges, and he doesn't lean it back by like with his guard up or leaning it to the side or left or right. He leans straight back in a straight line. That's going to be scary against Page, who likes to blitz in and has these long arms. He's got 79-inch reach, but I swear he makes him look even longer because of the way he fights. I also noticed that he doesn't move his head. Even in the Jeff Neal fight, I'm not talking about leaning back like I just mentioned, just when it's stationary as well, and when they're in combinations, he doesn't move his head, and he can get hit and he can get hit hard. He got cracked by Neil a few times, even though he won that fight pretty clearly, I thought. Now for Page, no one can figure out his striking, and that's been the tale of Michael Page in Bellator, and now in UFC. Kevin Holland got to witness that, and that was an embarrassment for Kevin Holland, because I picked Page in that fight because I just knew that Kevin Holland wouldn't have the fight IQ to figure out Page, and that's what happened. Page just blitzed him every couple of seconds, and looked like he hurt Holland quite a few times. He has some serious power in his strikes. You could see it every time he was touching Holland. He was wobbling him. And a few of the spinning elbows he landed on Holland, I don't know how it didn't knock him out. I feel like that would knock out a few people, including Garry, if he lands it on him. Now, what I noticed about Page is the same thing that Garry does. He leans back with his head on a straight line. I think Page maybe moves a bit more like left to right, out of range, but he still leans back all the way without his guard up. And it's scary. It's scary because if someone lands, they're landing flush onto his head. He also can be taken down easily, very, very easily. Storley took him down the whole fight. That's why he won the decision. Lima took him down, and so did Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland took him down the second round and got a dominant position on him. But Kevin Holland's top mount jiu-jitsu, I don't think is that good. I feel like he's better with his chokes and all that in terms of jiu-jitsu. Now, taking aside, man, I think a better prop here, I'm being serious, if fight doesn't go to decision. So I feel like one of these two are going to get chinned because they're both such good strikers, but they both have such a flaw in their striking defense that I feel like if either one lands flush, they're going to hurt the other opponent. However, if I'm going to pick a side, I'm going to pick Garry. And I'm going to pick Garry because I feel like he has a few more ways to win this fight. He can either take it to the floor, which I think he could do very easily. I know we've seen Garry just be a striker, but he does, I'm telling you, he does have good jiu-jitsu, and I think he has decent enough wrestling to be able to take Page down because Page can get taken down quite easily. I also think he just, all in all, he's a much cleaner fighter. I feel like Page is going to rely on those blitzes. And I do think he can catch Garry, like I said. But if he's having no success with that, because Garry is a smart fighter, that's his whole game plan gone away. He's not going to be able to adapt because he doesn't adapt like that. He is just a one-way fighter. He does those blitzes, and that's what he's done his whole career. So yeah, I'm going to pick Garry, and I'm picking him by finish, by either KO or sub. It's a low-confidence pick, but I think, like I said, the fight doesn't go to decision is a good bet. I know a lot of people are going to be betting the over. I'm going to bet the under, and that's going to be my bet for this fight if I do put one, because I don't know. I don't really like this fight in terms of betting. I'd rather just watch it as a fan and sit back and relax. But yeah, I'm going to go Garry by KO or sub. What was supposed to be on a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, we have the almighty Mayra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. Say that a couple of times and think realistically if you want to spend $80 to watch this fight. I sure don't. You know that Tyra card, the Tatsuro Tyra card that was a couple of weeks ago that was like the worst card ever? I wouldn't even want to watch that on that card. This fight sucks, okay? I don't understand what the UFC is trying to do. I don't know who they're trying to push here. Chiasson? Because we just saw Silva get dominated against Pennington for 5 rounds. Like, what's happening here? But, geez. Why? Anyway. We'll start off with the Chiasson side, okay? So, she is a wrestler, I would say. I would say she's a wrestler with some decent jiu-jitsu. We saw her wrestling against Penny Kianzad and Norma Dumont, and we saw that she was able to use her jiu-jitsu against them. Against Pianzad, she finished her, and Dumont, she didn't really use her jiu-jitsu, but she had dominant positions. Even against Aldana, that fight, that scrap where she got kicked from the floor, and she like fell over because she got her liver hurt or something from, that was the strangest KO I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, she dominated Aldana in the second round by using her wrestling and her jiu-jitsu, and because she's 5'11", she's huge for this division. She doesn't have striking, okay? I don't want to hear it from people. She has slow striking. Her punches suck. Her kicks that she does, I don't even know why she throws them, because they're just useless, okay? They're useless. Don't throw them. Don't waste your energy. You don't have to lift up your leg all that way to throw something that like a feather probably hurts more than that, because they are so slow. Now, I will say her clinch knees and her clinch work is pretty nasty, okay? She uses her height well, because she throws these knees up the middle during the clinch, and she does hurt her opponents with them. But I've seen a bit of quit in her, and it's a bit concerning, okay? That Aldana fight, okay, you get hit in the lever, alright. But, okay, maybe not that one, alright? Because I'm not a fighter, I used to train, but I don't know how that really affects you too much. But more so, the Pennington fight, okay? The choke that Pennington had on Chiasson was not a tight choke at all. It was literally so loose. And Chiasson didn't even try to fight it. She just gave up and just got choked out. It was really strange to watch. Now for Silva, she's not that good either. She's got decent elbows and knees, like up close, more so in the clinch. And she has okay jiu-jitsu. It's a bit overrated, I think. I don't think she's that good at jiu-jitsu. I mean, she might get a few arm bars here and there, but it's very limited. She's not that crazy. She's not like a Dern or anything like that. But she can be out wrestled and grinded, which is concerning this fight. We saw in the Montana De La Rosa fight, she can get wrestled, and De La Rosa got like top mount on her and could have finished that fight if she was a bit better and a bit more proactive. And in the Payton fight, she got out wrestled as well. You know, Silva was supposed to be the one that had the dominance in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, but Payton put it on her and showed that she's the much better and well-rounded fighter out of the two. And she kind of gassed in that fight as well. I've noticed that in a lot of her fights, not just the 5-round fights. You go back, you watch the tape against even like Yanan Wu and stuff like that. After like the second round, she slows down tremendously. Whereas Chiasson, you know, you saw in the Aldana fight, she picked it up, and she picked up in the third round. She was going to win that fight if she didn't get heel kicked into the liver. So, yeah, both untrustworthy fighters. I don't know how you can be confident in a pick here, but I am going to have to side with the Macy Chiasson side, and I think it's for two reasons. First of all, she's 5'11". She is a big lady, so she's going to have severe advantage in the clinch if it gets there. She's going to be able to throw those knees, throw those elbows, and really hurt the body of Silva and gas her out more than what would happen naturally. I also think she's going to be able to have success getting it to the floor. Like I said, Silva can be out wrestled, and she can be clinched up against the cage. Like against Holly Holm, she was clinched up against the cage. Now Chiasson has to be very careful. She cannot shoot these silly takedowns where she's leaving her neck exposed, because we saw Silva does snatch up the ninja choke quite well. She not only did that to Holly Holm, she also did that to Montana De La Rosa. If you watch that fight back, she goes to that ninja choke quite frequently to stop the takedowns. But if Chiasson gets on top, I think she's going to keep it there either the whole round or she's going to finish Silva. I'm really confident that Chiasson will be able to have significant top control in the fight and have a significant advantage with her size. So yeah, it's extremely low confidence pick, but I'm actually going to pick Chiasson by sub or decision out in this fight, and I think it's going to be on the floor for the majority. So yeah, Chiasson, sub or decision, low confidence pick. Next up, we have Anthony Smith after his big upset against Petrino versus Roman Dolidze. And this fight's strange because it was supposed to be like Khalil Roundtree versus Jamal Hill. Then Khalil got injured, and then it was supposed to be Olberg versus Hill. Then Hill gets injured, then Olberg versus Smith, and Olberg gets injured, and now it's just like a completely different matchup, Smith versus Dolidze. But I guess I'll take it because it's going to be probably a fun scrap. Now, I think people got to start giving Smith his flowers and his props, because he just steps up to the plate every single time. I think he's on a mission for gold still, and I think he thinks he has the skill set to do so. I mean, does he have the skills to do so? Yeah, but does he have the physical advantages to do so? Like, he gets hurt quite a lot. Probably not. But anyway, we'll talk about this fight. So Smith, what is he good at? He has some real good leg kicks, and you saw it in the short fight that was the Petrino fight. He was chewing up the leg of Petrino. He did it to Roundtree, even though Roundtree was busting him up with the boxing, and he disabled the leg of Jimmy Crute, which was impressive to do because you don't see a lot of leg kick KOs there, and he did that to Jimmy Crute. He also has a very nice jab, and you've seen it in his past fights, and he's got literally like quadruple the amount of experience as Dolidze. That's saying something, okay? That's valuable information, because he has had over 50 pro fights, whereas Dolidze has only had 15. Like, that's a lot of pro fights. Like, this is an amateur versus professional if you think about it, because Smith has been there, seen it, been with John Jones. Like, he has seen everything and way more than what Dolidze would be able or has experienced in his career. Now, for Dolidze, I think he's just the most overrated fighter ever. I thought before the Imavov fight and before the Vettori fight as well, he was just overrated, and I don't understand. He was getting dominated by Hermansson, and then he locked up this 1 in a million calf slicer and got Hermansson in the weirdest position ever, and Hermansson couldn't do anything. But like, that was just luck. Hermansson was not, Dolidze was not winning that fight. He was getting dominated. And you've seen him just like, what, he knocked out Chinny Phil Hawes after he tore his knee out. Like, come on. I think people just really overrate him because of his flag. I'm being serious. I think because they think he's Georgia and he's like you know, the Gigas of the world and the Merab Devalashis of the world, like they think Dolidze is on that level, but he's really not. He's got an overhand and he's got good jiu-jitsu. Now, what I've noticed about him is he is the most hittable human ever. He suffered bad leg kicks against Vettori, who never really throws kicks. He was hittable against Imavov, and whenever he threw an overhand in the Vettori fight, he got countered quite easily. I think Smith is going to be the much better striker out of the two. I think he can just pour out that jab and leg kick him to death if he wants to. I also think this is bad for Dolidze because although Smith was short notice as well, he got to train for at least 2 weeks, and Dolidze is coming up from middleweight to light heavyweight, so Smith is going to be the much larger fighter of the two. I'm pretty sure he would be, like they're close to the same height, but in terms of, you know, thickness, he's going to have a severe advantage, and it's going to be pretty evident in the fight. Now, do I think Dolidze can get a finish on Smith? Yeah, of course, because Smith is very fragile and vulnerable, but skill for skill, I think Smith is the way better fighter. I think he has a ground game that can compete with Dolidze. Maybe not in terms of the traditional leg locks and all that stuff, but in terms of getting up to his feet and doing all that, doing all the foundations of jiu-jitsu, I think he can compete there. But I think for the most part, it's going to be Smith just leg kicking Dolidze, jabbing him, and probably being the stronger out of the two, and just winning a decision. It's going to be probably a fun scrap. Dolidze has a shot finishing Smith, but I'm going to take Smith by unanimous decision. Brian Ortega makes his return after another year off against Diego Lopes, and this should be the best fight of the night. I think this is going to be an absolute scrap, and I'm telling you why. Because they are the exact same fighter. I don't understand how people aren't seeing this. It's just Diego Lopes has more power and Brian Ortega has more technique. It's literally the same fighter. They both have beautiful boxing and they have beautiful jiu-jitsu. It's the same thing. Now we'll start off with Lopes. He has power, okay? Like I said, he has the more power of the two. He has hurt Sabatini, he hurt Sadiq Youssef, he hurt Movsar Evlovoyev, even though he lost that decision. And he's got some serious power for this division. He also threw some real nice leg kicks against Sadiq Youssef, which you know, probably would have compromised him if he didn't get knocked out in like the first 2 minutes. But still, he was throwing a real nice calf kick against him, and of course his jiu-jitsu is just incredible. Against Gavin Tucker, again that flying triangle. Against Evlovoyev on short notice, I think people forget that was very short notice. He hung out with Evlovoyev, and if Movsar wasn't like just an absolute gun and determined to win that fight, he probably would have gone submitted or knocked out by Lopes. Now for Ortega, he has beautiful boxing, and I think people forget the Korean Zombie fight. He absolutely pieced up Korean Zombie, and yes, that was Zombie at the twilight of his career, but still, he pieced him up badly. And he had a competitive fight against Volk. You know, he got Volk in some dire positions that if it wasn't for Volk, he probably would have won that fight. And he showed in the Rodriguez fight he can overcome adversity and show off his jiu-jitsu chops, which everyone knows Ortega for. You know, he's called T-City for a reason. He has some serious jiu-jitsu. Now, both of them struggle with one thing. They are very, very hittable, both of them. Lopes is hittable, but he survives it. Ortega is hittable, but he looks like he wilts by it. That first and second round from the Rodriguez fight, it looks like every single strike Rodriguez was throwing was hurting Ortega, and it looked horrible in the first round. It looked like he was going to get finished at any moment. I think that spells trouble in this fight, okay? I'm picking Diego Lopes at a medium confidence because I do think Lopes has a power advantage, and I think he's just going to hurt Ortega before Ortega hurts Lopez. I mean, if you're going to back chin and power, who are you going to back? I think you have to back Lopez here. Now, I would take fight doesn't go decision over that because both of these guys have been finished before. Lopes has been KO'd like twice, and Ortega has been finished on the feet by like Max Holloway, and like I said, Yair Rodriguez was hurting him quite severely on the feet as well. So I think taking fight doesn't go decision is just going to cover your bases here, because I do think someone gets finished. Maybe there is a club and sub because both of them have legit jiu-jitsu. I think Lopes has the more dynamic jiu-jitsu, whereas Ortega has the better fundamental jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is a hard word to say. Has the more fundamental BJJ. So yeah, I just think it's a volatile fight in terms of a finishing sequence here. But I do think Lopez is going to find that knockout in the first round. I think he's going to continue this streak of just finishing his opponents, and he's going to get himself a title shot. I mean, you just got to ride the wave, I guess. Just ride the wave until the wheels fall off, because, you know, why would you back Ortega in this fight? I don't understand. Where's he going to, like, do you think he's just going to lay in Lopez's guard the whole time, like Jourdain Johannes and Brito did in the Contender Series. I highly doubt it. I think Lopes is severely evolved since then. And on the feet, I mean, Ortega probably could catch Lopes, but I feel like if one's going to knock out the other, it's probably going to be Lopes. So yeah, I'm going to back Lopes here. I'm going to back him by a round 1 KO. Up next, we have the main event, Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka, which should have been Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. I'm still pretty sad about that because, look, I'm not a casual by any means. I hold myself high to that. I watch every single fight card, and I've watched every single fight card for at least the past six years, I would say. And I've been watching the UFC since Ultimate Fighter 2 or 3, I think it was, Michael Bisping season. Michael Bisping and Hamill. I remember that season very clearly. But anyway, enough about me. But still, there's just nothing like a Conor McGregor card, and it just saddens me that he's not on it. But still, this is a banger of a fight. It's the second fight out of the 2, and I think people just, are looking for some violence, which is going to happen in this fight. Now, I'm going to give the prediction away straight away. I am picking Jiri in this fight, Jiri Prochazka. And I'm picking him because of just the last fight that he had against Rakic. Rakic was destroying the leg of Prochazka and was hitting him some beautiful straights. But Prochazka just didn't die. He just kept going. And it's like the calf kicks just were at the back of his mind. Like, yes, it gave him physical pain, but mentally he was just stronger than that and wanted that victory more than Rakic. And he just broke Rakic in the second round. It was just insane to see because most people would have halted from that barrage of leg kicks that he suffered in the first round. Now, Pereira is, I have complete respect for Pereira. He has saved this sport for the past 3 years. And if he wasn't in here, I don't think we would have any of these spectacles. He saved UFC 300. He saved UFC 303. I mean, this man is putting a lot of risk on this fight because he's 36 years old. He can't take that many knockouts now. And if he gets finished in this fight, it's going to probably take a couple of, years of his career. But still, he is a formidable fighter, and he just knocked out Hill in like the first couple of minutes of their last title fight in UFC 300. But I just think he's going to get finished here, and I just have that feeling. And that's not really anything against Pereira. It's more so just Prochazka. I just think Prochazka's a madman, and he might get hurt, he might get stumbled. He's been stumbled in other fights before. In the Dominic Reyes fight, he got stumbled. In the Ozdemir fight, he got stumbled. But I think people are forgetting, in the first fight of these two, he was winning the fight. He took Pereira down. He got into a good position. I mean, he hurt Pereira a couple of times. And he's just a weird fighter, and a weird fighter to train, especially on, 2 weeks notice for Pereira? I mean, I don't know. I've just got a slight inclination that Jiri is going to find the finish here. Obviously, if fight doesn't go decision is a given. But yeah, seriously, this is just a hard fight to predict, and you really can't be confident in either fighter, because you can say, yeah, Pereira's going to land the calf kicks. Yeah, he's going to land them. I'm confident he will. But did you not see Rakic's and Prochazka's last fight? Prochazka just pulled through and just didn't care about the pain that he was receiving. I mean, it's crazy. It's a crazy fight. It's going to be fun. I mean, you don't have to pick a side. You can just sit back and watch. But yeah, maybe Prochazka even implements the wrestling, because he tried to in the first fight and he had success getting it to the floor. You never know where he's been training, but I'm going to pick Prochazka by a first or second round KO or submission, either from ground and pound or by catching Pereira. But yeah, it's going to be a beautiful fight. It's definitely saved this card. I feel like if they didn't find a replacement like this, UFC 303 would have bombed hard, because everyone was looking forward to seeing Conor McGregor back. But yeah, we've got this fight, and it's a good fight to have. And then we've got the break next week, which is sad, because I hate it when the UFC is not on the weekend, but it is what it is. But yeah, that wraps up the card. 13 fights, all should be fun, besides the Macy Chiasson versus Mayra Bueno Silva fight, and the Martin Buday versus Andrei Arlovski fight. I hate those two fights. Hate it. But other than that, fun card. Really fun card. I'll come out with my best bets probably Friday. I think that's Thursday for America. But yeah, Friday for Australia. And yeah, hopefully we have another winning week. We killed last week. I'm sure we're going to kill this week. Even though it's a bit of a tougher card to predict and maybe to bet on. But we'll see. I'll have a look at my betting slip soon. But yeah, other than that, enjoy your week. Keep on studying some tape. Let me know in the comments if you have any disagreements, agreements, because I'm always open to hear some new information about some certain fighters. But yeah, other than that, I guess enjoy your time. I'll catch you on Friday, and yeah, ciao. Catch you later.